This conference will now be recorded.
Shirts and the pins.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to get the finance committee going.
I would do that.
It's 2:00. I'll note the committee members present, and I need a motion for approval of the agenda.
5 plus the mayor.
Chairman, I'll make a motion for the agenda.
Second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any objections? Hearing none. We've got an approved agenda. First item is the approval of the ITB 24002 instructions for the General Douglas L. McBride Veteran Pavilion. So before we get into this, I've got a learning moment for everybody. Now, Mike, I'm going to pick on you. Explain.
It's usually me, Mike.
We have a procedure in the city of Roswell where we periodically go out and get bids from local contractors, could be anybody, for certain kinds of construction. We call that a what? ITB. ITB, okay. So explain for the committee how that's supposed to work. So we're gonna repave a parking lot or roof a building or do a construction project. How does that work?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, so all the documentation paperwork put together, run through committees to approve that ITB, to put that ITB out to request bids, depending on the amount. Obviously, we have our procurement laws and stuff that where anything under a certain amount, you have to have a price quote, or above this amount, you have to have 3 price quotes. I don't remember those off the top of my head because I don't do that a lot anymore. Then it gets to the point of when you get an ITB, you put the paperwork together, put it out, and those interested parties will then submit to you a bid for that project or quote, whatever you want to do, or you put out an RFP, request for proposal.
Okay, so, but we have a group of people that have gone to the trouble of getting on the ITB list for the city, correct?
There are some ITBs out there for some construction, for roofing, different things. Yes, sir.
Okay, so do we send down some kind of notice for them to bid? How does that work?
I can use an example for like code enforcement on their demolition. So they have a number of contractors who have submitted, responded to that ITB. Whenever they have a house to be demoed, they will send them a notice, say, hey, we have this house at this address. We're seeking quotes to that house. If they respond to it, they'll give them a price. If they don't, then that's a non-responsive response from that.
Okay, so how do you notify those contractors? Send them an email, call them on the phone, send them a letter?
Code enforcement will give them a list. They have to list those 5 or 6 contractors. Until we will make contact with them. They'll either drop it off to them or they'll come by and pick it up, and they'll give them a deadline that they can submit that their response back.
Okay, so that's the first step.
Yes.
And isn't it publicly announced as well? So any other
Yes.
outside players can get it?
Well, it's
Yeah.
put on our website, I think.
Right, so it's open up for pretty
Yeah,
much anyone.
okay, but we
And the
have,
threshold is 20,000. Anything over 20,000 will require bids. Anything over 60,000 requires your RFP or ITB.
okay,
Yes.
all right, so let's assume that we send ladies and gentlemen that own construction companies that go to the work of submitting and be accepted on our ITB, kind of get a leg up, maybe, depending on the person. I understand that. And so they get no responses from any of those people, whatever reason. So then what's the next step? We still got this roof needs to be fixed, and we got no response from the ones that are on the roofing section, if you will. And what's the next step?
That's that part. I'm probably not the best one to answer this, but I believe it is that you can go out and seek bids from other qualified contractors.
Okay,
And I know if you put the bid out twice and you reject them twice, third time you can just go out and negotiate with a vendor for that project.
okay. All right, get off the hook for a minute. We'll put Mr. Chad on the spit. So in your dealings with the schools, you all did a lot of business called CES?
Cooperative Education Services, yes, sir.
Okay. And that is used to just for schools.
It used to be, now it's open up to government. Yes.
Okay. So when did they get into the mix? At what point?
I want to say that was probably 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. So we've got this roof job and our ITB guys and gals don't bid on it. And so we take the next step and open it up. When can CES come in and bid on the proposal? I guess they can do it anytime.
So the beauty of CES from the school district's perspective was that if they're a CES qualified vendor, then they don't have to bid the project. Now, we've got several contractors around town that are CES members that also bid projects separately.
Okay. So in your tenure at the school district, then you go out for a bid for $1 million. Keep them that simple. And a CES approved, because they've got their contracts, all these contracts.
Yes, sir.
So what's obligation to the schools if you select the CES?
That's who if you select a CES contractor, you write them a PO and that serves as a basis for contract.
So you don't directly pay the group that's in charge of CES 10% of the bid price?
No, sir.
3%.
You got something to add?
Mr. Chair, I think the CES takes a 3% off the top charge.
Okay, so they get 3% off the top. Okay. So have you, Counselor, let Chad take a breath, had the opportunity to review the contract that CES might have with their contractors on their list? Do you know anything about that side of the business?
So each contract that CES has on its list is unique to, so what CES does is they do bids and then award generic contracts that people piggyback off of. So each particular CES contract is unique to their particular bid, although they follow a form, not unlike the city has a generic contract form. The only hiccup with CES from like a legal procurement side that we have is that the city, and we've since corrected, but a few years ago, the city actually had joined CES properly under the law. So we should have not been using them for a long time. That we corrected that. But so every procurement, you have to actually have been a member of CES when they did their procurement to piggyback off of it. But otherwise, what I think we're getting at is if we were to put something out to bid and the bid turns out higher than what a CES contract is, we can cancel the bid and just purchase through CES.
Okay, that's important to know because you know me, I'm looking for nickels and dimes.
Yeah. And in the year and a half I've been here, that really just depends on what we're bidding and when. Half the time when I've been involved in a procurement, CES is cheaper, and the other half the time it isn't. So it's something we ought to be doing with every purchase is checking against CES, Spendwell, and the other cooperative groups we're with.
Listen, these ladies and gentlemen in the construction business, more power to them. They bid, we go the lowest bid, provided we can get the quality work and get it done timely. That's another problem we need to kind of think about and tackle in the city of Roswell, getting stuff done in a timely manner.
Yes, sir.
We're not getting it done. I don't know where the problem is, but I'm going to find out where the problem is. Okay. Anybody got any questions on how the procurement system works? I know typically it costs you additional dollars to go with CES, but
Not always, but yeah.
typically.
We do have a fee.
But if they're the lowest bidder, that's the way it is. I got it. Okay,
Well, one thing is whoever we get to bid this stuff, we need to check, because if you go look at that new park we built, we haven't had the dedication. There's enough rust on that. We're gonna have to repaint it before you can, the fence before you can dedicate it.
The all-inclusive park.
yeah, oh, I know which one he's talking about.
So
That's
I'm
what
just,
I'm
you know,
saying.
we need to be careful about who we pick.
Well,
Generally, there's a punch list that the city would go through with our contractor at substantial completion to make sure we've got substantial completion before bills are paid.
well, that goes back to we can't seem to get projects started on time and we can't seem to get them finished on time. That project was struck out over 3-4 years, I guess. I don't know.
Jim,
Sir,
Chairman, yes, the city does operate under price agreements as well, correct? Because price agreements, you can circumvent the ITB, you can circumvent the RFP, over 60,000, you can go just look at your player, he's done you a good job, he has good history, and just do work with him. So price agreements, if we utilize them,
Right, yeah,
and
we,
we establish them, and sometimes it's work within our procurement system, our purchasing agent, if you will, and we get a good established amount of them. Price agreements are one of the best processes, I think.
yeah, and we like price agreements, though more commonly the city will piggyback off of state or federal price agreements.
yep, we've done that many times.
But they're great.
Okay, all right, so let's talk about this ITB 24-002. This project's been around for a while. And we've already expended some money and made somebody upset. And so we blew how much?
97,000.
Okay. You're up.
Mr. Chairman, agenda item number 1 is a request for approval to award invitation to bid 24-002 for construction of the General Douglas L. McBride Veterans Memorial Pavilion Edition, $477,841.37 to Wade Construction. So we published this invitation to bid once, didn't receive any bids. We published it again. We got one bid, and that bid was high. And so we sought some other numbers from a general construction contract on the state price agreement. We got one price through that, and that price was higher than our single bid. And so proceeded to negotiate a best and final offer with the single bidder, which was Wade Construction. And he brought his price down a pretty good amount. Funding for this project is provided in part through state appropriation. So the appropriation would fund $410,558.85. We're requesting $67,282.52 from the general fund for the excess costs. So this project would include 2 honor guard shelters to match the existing committal shelter. And then there's also some conduit for an additional Huey helicopter installation. I've spoken with the Chaves County Veterans Group. They support this phase of the work and they support this design. They've been a part of the redesign of these committal shelters. I'll stand for any questions.
So where are we gonna, what line item are we gonna get this $67,000 out of? Janie's not here, she's out ill. So I don't know that there's anybody here to tell me where we might be able to get it. I don't know.
Take it out of the road fund.
gonna say how much more money,
So
well, how much more money do we have out of the cannabis fund?
there's 300,000 there.
Not,
Well, minus,
smoking something? Bought a lot of donuts and brownies the other week. I think it's,
I'll tell you here in a second.
yeah, we'd have to.
Still got 50.
We've got 200, we got 382 is what was in there, minus what we approved the other day. 80
80 plus the police,
plus what?
plus the union settlement for the police.
Yeah.
Which was another 160.
So it's 230,
40, there's 60.
240 out of 380. So it's close.
We're about to end it up.
Up in smoke.
Close.
Put it to good use.
Even looking for staff recognition. I think that's what you're looking for, are you not?
Yeah, I just posed the question, where's it coming from? I mean, we started out this year $26,000 or $26 million over appropriated. We heard from our city manager at the first quarter, we were 7 million over appropriated at that point. We were trying to get a mid-year review done today, but Janie's been out sick and she didn't get it completed and she's not here to present it. And I don't think that's fair for her to just, here's my work, good luck, with our staff or other team members upstairs. That's not fair to them. If they put it together, then they can present it, but we'll get that done next month. Sir,
Mr. Chairman, my question is, what is the frame on this state appropriation? Do we have to have it spent by?
It reverts on June 30th, 2025. It was reappropriated, so we got the original appropriation back in 2019, and then we got it reauthorized in 2023, and so it doesn't revert until June 30th, 2025.
Thank you.
still waiting for somebody to say where the money's gonna come from.
Well, I already gave my recommendation, so.
Yeah, and he about came unglued next to you there. I don't know.
I just want to know what the I don't disagree with that. I just don't have the final end of quarter numbers for cannabis with the adjustment for the union settlement. I just want to make sure I'm not getting the wrong numbers is all.
And I don't think that's in, I'll go back, I've got the full budget I'm reviewing
Right,
right.
yeah, it won't be in that.
It was not in the first
But
6 months.
Right, because the checks were going to be issued, well, they were cut today. So we'll know the exact amount to deduct from the numbers tomorrow.
Counselor, may I ask, how many working days is this project?
We haven't negotiated a total number of working days. I would estimate about 9 months.
9 months? And it goes till June of 2025?
Yeah.
So, I mean, we could wait another month and try to figure this out if you think it's appropriate.
How long is their bid for, Matt?
It said on his proposal, let's see, 15 days.
Oh, wow.
I think he could, I could ask him to wait another month.
And how long we've been waiting on the improvements over there for this? I mean, this
Since
has been a long.
2013, somebody?
2019.
2019 started.
Mr. Chair, the other option would be to send it forward without an allocated source. And then when Jamie's back, we can present you with options at full council.
Okay,
That'd be good.
I'm good with that.
okay. And I guess we're ready for a motion unless there's more comments.
Yeah, I guess we're looking for a motion to,
In the city of Roswell, if I may direct your call.
The question is, we want to put this on the consent or full council?
So I'll make a motion here, Mr. Chair. That we move to full council for approval of award ITB 24-002 in the amount of $477,841.37 to Wade Construction with the state appropriation of $410,558.85 and the remaining $67,282.52 to be determined at council meeting.
Have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, passes 4-0.
We just added 45 minutes to the next council meeting, just so you know that. You wanted to get out of there.
You're the one that promised him 2-hour meetings, not me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just telling him what he did.
And he's the guy that made the motion, Mayor, so don't start apologizing yet.
We'll get it done.
Okay. So we've got Wade Construction on carpet or flooring at the museum. And Matt, are you the guy on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So agenda item number 2 is a request for approval to hire Wade Construction in an amount not to exceed $300,000 using RFP contract 23-013 for general contracting services for the Roswell Museum flooring renovations phase 2. So we issued a request for a quote to all vendors under this agreement, and we only received one proposal from those vendors. Funding for this project is provided by state appropriation 23-ZH-50- or 23-ZH-5040. So all of the money will come from this appropriation. This is a 1-year appropriation. We got the grant agreements in November, I believe, and all of the funding reverts on June 30th. So this will provide for 2 epoxy terrazzo corridors installed in the north and south entrances in our high traffic areas. So we're also planning a store move to the Spring River Gallery, which is at the bottom. And then on the north section, you have your other main entrance. Those, the flooring in those sections are VCT with asbestos. So we'd like to replace that flooring in those high traffic areas. I'll stand for any questions.
So this will zero the appropriation, correct?
No, the appropriation is $617,638.
What we're gonna do?
The quote's 300. The rest will go towards construction of the store move.
Well, we got a very short time frame to get all this done. You've got February, March, April, May, June. You got 5 months to get this done.
Right.
It'll be hard to do.
It is.
And you got to bring back the other 300,000 for us for consideration.
Right. We're working on that right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Start on time, finish on time.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd just say that Mac has recently taken over this project or
No, no,
has dove in.
I'm-
Yeah.
Mac, please, I'm not throwing darts at you because you're a new kid on the block. I got it. But we need, everybody else needs to understand that we're going to start, I'm going to start asking each question about the rest of the committee. When's it going to start? When's it going to be complete? When's it going to start? When's it going to complete? How much money's left over? Is it money that could potentially be reverted back to the state? Is this a special appropriation out of the legislature? Correct?
Correct.
And we don't, getting backed up like this is not good business. We've been given the money for a project and we're dragging our feet. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, you were up there in Santa Fe, and you probably did not like when you got an appropriation and it didn't get completed, did you?
Oh, that group did not go back on my list ever.
Exactly. And I think that's the point you're trying to drive here is that we need to be pronto on this stuff and not let it sit. They didn't appropriate this money 2 weeks ago.
It's already saved this much.
So I follow what you're saying here, and I heed that
Every time they have.
all staff is paying attention to what Chairman is saying here. Because if we start this project and we don't finish it on time, who has to write the check?
We do. Comes out of our general fund.
Where are you going to get that 300,000?
I don't know, it's already over appropriated, started out over appropriated, we're doing pretty good. First quarter, we're just down to 7, hopefully we can finish the year in the black. I'm not holding my breath, but hopefully.
Yeah. I'm concerned that it doesn't get finished on time, and where's the money going to come from? I'm not concerned about the project.
No.
I'm concerned with what you're saying here.
If we go to the legislature for money, and it's going to be a small amount like this, and it's not unusual for the legislature just to give you one fiscal year, do these smaller projects. They're big projects, they'll extend them on for you. But you need to have some, I'm not saying you got to have an architect drawing and all that other stuff. But and the other thing is, once it's passed and the governor signs it, there's a delay in getting the notification from whichever agency up there is charged with getting you the money. Well, if we know it's passed and signed, then we need to go ahead and start doing our planning right then. So we don't get caught short and flat-footed on this stuff. Drives me nuts. Hopefully it'll start driving you guys nuts if you aren't already driven nuts.
All right, well, Chairman, can I make a motion to put on the consent?
No,
Well, it's quicker that way.
put on the regular agenda.
Okay. Make a motion to put on the full council, the approval to hire Wade Construction in a not to exceed $300,000 using RFP contract number 23-013 for general contracting services for the Roswell Museum flooring renovations phase 2. Funding source, state appropriation 23-ZH5040 for $300,000.
I second it.
Okay. Motion second. Because maybe it'll come up in conversation, this dilemma that we're having getting money spent that was given to us in time, because it's not just us that need to worry about that. The full council needs to do that.
Should have their attention.
Any further discussion? Sir?
Mr. Chairman, if there appears there's going to be a problem, somebody should probably call the legislature right now and ask them to extend the appropriation date for another 6 months, 3 months or something. But somebody should probably do that if you don't think you're going to get it spent. They have a bill for reauthorizations where you can extend it, but somebody better call and get it entered in there quick. I mean, sure, it's upset, don't we?
Well, okay, Senator. I mean, they do that reauthorization. So if we're going to be sitting on 300,000 praying we can get reauthorized at the next session.
All I'm saying is that if you don't think you're going to do it, somebody should have done that.
No, I
I mean,
appreciate it.
it's fine. I mean, they'll do it. They don't like to do it with some, but I know sometimes on some of the appropriations, when they come from the department, you don't have time to spend the money.
Yes.
And they gave the flood commission $500,000 until it had to be spent by June. Well, they didn't get to us in time to order a lot of stuff with it. It makes it very difficult to spend on that corn thing out there. So I'm just saying, if you don't think it's going to get done, It's either that or we need to put the museum director in stocks in front of the zoo until it gets done.
I'm sure she wouldn't appreciate that. Can we put Matt right by her, even though he's on the block?
Question, sorry, may I?
Mhm.
It was about the flooring, not the funding. You said that the tiles had asbestos. Are they abating those or are they just piling over them?
Abating.
Oh, so, okay.
That's probably what caused a lot of their delay.
Delay.
So I mean, I don't know that it's all their fault, so, you know, if you put that down, that's why it's because of the delayment of asbestos removal, then they can be a little more understanding to you, but you need to do it quick because there's a deadline on when it's going to be added. Votes being over,
I concur.
so.
Point well taken. Okay, any further discussions on this item? Hearing none, all those to move this forward to the full city council signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. All right, now we're talking about capital outlay fund, tax order K for Armstrong Consultants.
No, we're on item number 3.
Oh, excuse me. I apologize. Thank you all for keeping me lined out. Okay. So we're on pavement maintenance overlay for Mercer Asphalt in the amount of $300,000. Whose is this?
That's mine, sir. Mr. Chairman, committee members, what you have before you is a request for recommendation for a PO for pavement maintenance to Brazier Asphalt. The amount of $300,000, which includes gross receipts tax. This is an approved fiscal year 24 budget item in the road fund. Our costs would be reimbursed through the Street Improvement Grant Agreement, which is NMDOT control number 2233308. So a little background, we received that street improvement grant. So we're proposing to utilize these funds to perform pavement maintenance and repair on a segment of the Air Center Perimeter Road. The segment of roadway was affected during the flood event in 2021. The quote that we received from Brazier is included in your packet. You can see the quote is $260,000. We are requesting a PO for the full 300 in case we have overruns or if we have the opportunity to extend their work and get several hundred more feet of roadway repaired while they're out there. We'd like to do that. Stand for any questions.
Chairman, if I will, James, I looked at that as well, you know, and I know I'm pretty close with the paving side of things, you know, as you know.
Right.
And I know it's pretty much lead times width, and this is a rural job versus an urban job.
Correct.
I see, I don't know why we couldn't go an extra quarter mile on this and go ahead and make it the full 300,000. And I hope that is before we move the 300,000, that is the intention of this,
That's the intent, yes, sir.
is to go until we run out of 300,000 so we can utilize the full extent of that grant.
Yes,
So we
sir.
don't leave any meat on the bone.
Yes, sir. That's the intent.
Perfect. I love him.
Okay, a note in the write-up that reimbursement be 75% of the project cost.
So our the grant for NMDOT is the full 300, so we get 100% on that. Back in 2021, my understanding is this was also submitted as part of the emergency package due to that flood event. So my understanding is there's a possibility we could also ask for reimbursement from the emergency manager side of it. But my understanding, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a guaranteed reimbursement. And that one would be 75%, and we don't know when we would potentially receive it.
So you could potentially double up on this thing? Is that what you're saying? You're getting 300,000 from NMD. And then you try to get the other from somebody else. That would be a 75% of the whole project or just a portion of it?
My understanding is back in 2021, they asked for $278,000. So it would be 75% of the 278. potentially.
Even though we're getting a grant from the state. So we could get 75 of that.
Potentially.
Yeah, right on the 150,000 approximately.
And Mr. Chair, that is part of the issue or dilemma is it's essentially a gamble. We don't know that we will get that, but we probably should go ahead and apply for that, even if it defrayed the actual expenditures that we put into it. It's
Free money.
free money.
I guess I probably worded my question a little wrong. So with the disaster relief, I don't care where the other funds come from, as long as it's not from them. So we can credit the NMDOT grant to get that money. Is that right?
We would have expended those funds and we could request reimbursement of those expenditures regardless of funding.
Okay.
200,000.
Yeah. Well, that was my question.
But my understanding, Mr. Chair, is that that can take years before you see those come in, but that'd be a pleasant surprise for 2-3 years whenever.
It's not just.
And it's a great point, James. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Well, I was seeing how you do the bookkeeping on it. And if we can use DOT to leverage against those guys for an additional payment, then I'm all for it. And if it was going to come down to, and we got to pay waiting for the reimbursement to the other.
We'll be out the cash, but you lose nothing by trying.
I understand. Okay, that's answers my questions. Okay, any other comments? Sir,
I'm gonna make a motion if you're ready.
okay, I'll see.
You'll see, yeah. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend the PO for pavement maintenance overlay on Brasher to the Brasher asphalt in the amount of $300,000, which includes GRT to be placed on the consent agenda.
I second.
And apply for those other funds.
Well, don't do that. Doesn't have to be a part,
Why do we want it on consent agenda?
because it's already there. The money's there.
You've already added.
You've already approved it once. You can vote no against it.
I'm thinking about it. I don't have a second yet, so.
Second it again.
Okay, there's a motion, a second to approve this 300,000 from NMDOT and to use that money to leverage a grant agreement. How's that? Any objection? Okay, passes 4-0. Now, we're gonna put Miss Jennifer on the hot seat.
Quick question whether you voted for that or not.
I said 4-0. Hey, Senator. Settle down.
I was gonna vote no.
I said I was thinking about it. I didn't say I was going to. All right, come on, Jennifer, let's go. See if we can get out of here before midnight.
I'm here to ask you to consider approval to allocate capital outlay funds and approve task order pay for engineering services to Armstrong Construction to design the electrical vault and new radio controller equipment for airfield lighting for the Air Center, as well as approve the purchase order. Should this be passed, the funding source is coming from MAP 23 FAA grant. The grant is in the amount of $468,720. Will be currently $13,223.19 for a total of $481,973.19, which includes GRT. This was not in the 24 budget. We received this grant in September. Our plan is to construct 24, design in 24, construct in 25 using bill funds. And the just give you a little background, the existing airport vaults for both runways 321 and 1735 are in poor condition, and for constructed by the Air Force in the late 50s. All the equipment is outdated. The scope of the work will consist of a new enclosed building, installation of conduits and floor and lighting, vault equipment, and new electrical regulators for each runway. A computerized controller equipment will also be installed to meet electrical codes and FAA standards. And I've asked for consideration. If you have any questions, my engineer, or our engineer from ADB is online, and he can answer any questions, but we are looking at going from 2 vaults down to 1. And these are some that are similar, what we're looking at. Won't be as large, it's something similar to what Sky Harbor has. But this is what we're looking at. Any questions?
Okay.
And this project will be completed in the fiscal year.
24, 25.
Will be completed.
Okay, so you want the design in 24.
I want to design this year, and next year won't be till probably October, but we will like to start constructing.
And we've got a grant amount and the local share, it says here. How are we funding that 13,000?
Out of our project savings budget.
How much is in it?
It was $1 million.
Well, it's your budget.
Sorry?
It's your budget. How much is in it?
It was about $1 million still left in that.
Okay. All right. Any
Your
other
question was what?
Huh?
1.5 million, is that what you're questioning? Total cost?
No,
No,
I
no,
was
no,
just,
no, no. That would be construction. We're just talking design here today.
we'll get that done next year.
We have the money appropriated?
Not yet. We haven't got to the 25 budget.
All we're asking to do is design.
I'm going to ask, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
I'm going to ask a question about, was this proposal that you're saying that we accept from Armstrong, was this put out for bid or for RFP, or we just selected Armstrong?
They are our engineering contractors.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, I can answer. We put in an RFP for general engineering services for the airport. Armstrong was the only respondent, and this was 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Then they're going up for bid again in July.
And they're on a proposal.
October.
We don't know whether this is a competitive bid or not, then, do we?
No.
It's competitive to the amount that they know what the grant was. That's the competitive portion of it.
Roger.
And they knew what the grant amount was, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I can't vote for that based on that.
Well, this is just.
It needs to be done, and I know we got a lot of things going, but I do not like the process.
Oh, that's the reason why we did the little deal before, so we can start exploring the process.
These kind of projects, being locked in with someone who knows what the grant amount is, and they make their bid come in right at that, when we haven't done a competitive bid on it, is a shame. Absolute shame. Even though this is grant money and doesn't come out of our pockets individually, it does come out of our pockets.
13,000 does.
Well, the whole 48,
Damn thing.
the whole damn thing comes out of our pockets. Federal tax, you pay federal tax dollars. I don't like this at all.
Chair, was there an engineer's estimate on this or anything?
We had an IFE go out. It said it was in line. But we have an independent contract.
Was it prior to the bid or
Oh,
was it
yeah, and he
after?
didn't see any of it.
Okay.
Stinks.
He did not see any of the numbers.
I don't disagree, but we can't change it right now. And we got a bid going out. This June, July.
October.
The contract finishes in
So
October.
if I'm understanding this correctly, we had an engineer's bid go out and do an estimate.
We had an IFE go out
And then we got a grant for that amount. And then there was a,
for their services. The IFE did not show their pricing.
gotcha. Okay.
Just a bunch of X's they saw.
But the engineer's bid was prior to the contact of, okay.
So let me ask, let's take that a step further. Who was grants coming from the FAA?
Correct.
Did they know what the engineering estimate was on the front side?
No.
So they
No,
spent,
this is the pond money that they just said, this is what you got.
how close is this to the engineering estimate that you got?
He just said it was in line with the grant. That it was within the grant funding. What they're proposing to do is with the grant, within the grant.
Well, this desperately needs to be done.
Yes. If you have any questions, though, like I said, the engineer from ADB, he spent 2 weeks with us on the field. He has gone around looking at circuits and identifying troubled areas and where he's going to start. He'll be with us every two weeks for the first year. January was his first 2 weeks. I asked him to call in if we had any questions as far as what he's finding on the field. I did send the chairman a copy of his site report. And there's a lot of problems at the airfield light.
So has this been vetted by any other city council meetings or by your airport group?
No, I plan on taking it to the NBC and we did not have a meeting in December or January.
Okay. Sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just on another related subject. On any conduit that is used, there's something about with the gophers that we have out there, the size of the conduit should not be, as I recall, it's 1.5 inches. Should not be less than 1.5 inches because gophers can bite through conduits, whether it's steel or plastic, if it's under 1.5 inches. And you probably verify something with J&G Electric, but we need to really put something in there that, about the conduit, the size of it. It's just because gophers can't get their mouth around that big pipe. And check with somebody, but that's.
Please, if you're online.
This is Jay Dupont with ADB SafeGate. The spec
Okay.
will be that it's a minimum of 2-inch conduit and standardized across the field as we do it. That's an FAA, pretty much an FAA standard.
Okay,
Okay.
that's good. Glad to know that. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else, just let me know.
All right.
Well, I think the gophers would be glad to know the gophers too, if you have to do sprinklers.
Yeah. All right, what's your pleasure, gentlemen? Keep in mind, we're going to rebid all this stuff here 6 months or so. 7, maybe 8, that's just February, so.
We can try to put bids out 4 months before the contract expires.
Okay. So we need to get moving, in my opinion, because this stuff was put in when?
The original wiring, some of it dates back to the 50s. We've had some sections done more recently, but majority of it is all buried. It's not in conduit.
Go for problems. And then you gotta go figure out where that gopher's living. Okay, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to full council, the approval to allocate capital outlay funds and approve task order K for engineering services to Armstrong Consultants for design of new electrical vault and install new radio controller equipment for airfield lighting at the Roswell Air Center, as well as approve the purchase order for this project if passed. Funding source RAC task order K for design is funded through a MAP 23 grant in the amount of $468,750. $13,223.19 local share for a total of $481,973.19, which will include Mexico GRT. This was not budgeted in in fiscal year 24 Airport Enterprise Fund. Local share will come out of their project savings budget line item.
Have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Any objections?
Yes.
Vote passes 3-1. UFO. So are you going to take this, Mr. Cole?
I will share this with Mr. Itema. He has put together some language here. We're trying to address the request received from Main Street Rock.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thanks for listening to the law yet again.
Hold on, before you get started, there's nothing here that I see that can actually be, if you look at this thing in totality, we don't have a vehicle to pass it.
Correct. This should have been a discussion item, really, and that's on me. So as you recall, counselors, and Mr. Pro Tem, the memorial was passed at the last council meeting that prioritized that nonprofits and tourist businesses operate and promote the festival, and that the city predominantly be responsible for the health and safety measures. The administration, Mayor Jennings, Manager Cole, were very happy with that instruction and have incorporated it. As a result, the Main Street Roswell with Councilor Halverson and about 15 or 20
There's 40-something people on the committee.
with 40 some odd people representing over 20 different community groups, had come together and submitted to Mr. Cole a proposal for what expenditures should look like for next fiscal year's UFO Festival. We're not asking for council to approve any money. What we wanted to do was, I wanted to inform you about some of the legal issues revolving the way they've made the proposal and get general input, because again, the whole process here is how are we going to structure this into next year's budget, which you'd be voting on in the future. We don't want to throw things into the budget for a festival that starts July 5th that you guys hate. So it's more of an informative and a feedback matter. So Main Street and Company asked for 4 different pools of money at various amounts. 100,000 for advertising, 100,000 for, I'll just go through each in turn. 100,000 for advertising, state, local, national, print, social media, radio, billboards, everything, all the above. The Main Street, I've spoken with Main Street Roswell and Councilor Halverson. They are not in a position to execute that effectively because they don't have contracts with major media producers to get us into the outlets necessary. Historically, the city has been the group that spends that anyway. There are no procurement issues with advertising. Lodgers tax next year, loose numbers, what we're looking at is 600. So I just did on my check here. Don't want to lie to you too much. Too much. Small amount.
While he's looking that up, I did want to point out, if you don't mind.
580,000 is what we have to spend next year on advertising for tourism events anyway. So that 100,000 is, we usually allocate, in the past we've allocated differently, but it definitely falls into something that we would have to do anyway.
Oh, I was just going to say that any of this funding comes out of lodgers tax.
Yeah, and the administration is there will be no general revenue spent this year or next. If there's things spent ahead of time from the current budget, that's just not the plan as Mr. Cole has laid out for me. Second, entertainment for concerts, drones, local venues, street entertainment, things like that. So depending on how we do it, it's a little more complicated with procurement. So we're going to be capped at 20,000 without going to bid. It's too late in the year to get any bids done meaningfully. The only exception is actual entertainment purchased by the city.
Professional entertainment's exempt from.
Yeah, that's right. But if we pay a group to get entertainment for us, that isn't exempt. Right, because headhunters aren't exempt, even if we're paying them nothing. because we're not actually cutting the check to the entertainer. This was, without going into detail,
Right.
let's just say Santa Fe wasn't pleased. So moving forward, generally speaking, we can give something like 20,000 to a group. It's a small purchase to buy entertainment for us. Otherwise, it would have to be an internal purchase, and the city is very nervous about purchasing entertainment given the colossal losses of the last two concerts. But we think that legally speaking, giving what we'd call something like a sponsorship for 20K to two of the larger members of the group is entirely feasible and it doesn't create a procurement issue. The next one, the 25,000 for security safety. We appreciate the estimate. As far as we're concerned, this is something the city's going to plan in for itself. Lodgers tax will reimburse the police department, the portions of the sanitation department, and any third parties that the city needs to procure to ensure the hygienic nature of the event. You know,
Abraham has people that want overtime and they come clean up trash downtown.
Right.
They'll be paid out, not out of his budget, but out of
So the first step, and we've already talked with the chief of police about, and the fire chief. So all the overtime will be lodgers tax. It's just an internal mechanism of reimbursement to the city to itself. If people are not available, if we're too short staffed, let's say sanitation to have people out here, small contracts can be given out and paid with lodgers tax. But that's something the city wants to do because ultimately we regulate safety at these events anyway. So there's no reason to pay a third party to do what we would be responsible for anyway. And then finally, pins, surveys, T-shirts, all of this again falls under that same $100,000 issue. Lodgers tax will pay for surveys and kind of say, we can go through each one. Pins for surveys, that's a lodgers tax expenditure that's very standard. Volunteer T-shirts get a little tricky. Safety vests would fall under that previous 25,000 as a safety expenditure. Maps could fall under advertising because typically what we'd say is one half would be the map and the other side would be like the Roswell logo and thanks for visiting, come back soon. That's advertising. Schedule of events, again, that falls under advertising. Posters are advertising. Handouts and booklets are also advertising. So that 25K number really can be absorbed into that 100K number. So ultimately, what would make legal more comfortable is just some general guideposts about where, so if Chad is instructed, you're not, and the mayor's on board with that too. But lodgers tax, based on this year's estimates, is looking like 1.4 to 1.5 million. So we've got to spend nearly 600 on ads, and the rest of it would be used for tourism events. So we just want to see what you're comfortable with. Generally speaking, it's still going to have to go through the normal budgeting process.
And Mr. Chair, what we're trying to avoid are audit findings. We've passed findings on this same event and use of funds. And I appreciate Mr. Heitema putting that together in that form so that we could advise to keep that separation.
So what is the max that you can spend administratively, provided it's contained in the budget, without having to take city council action along that line?
So that will depend on the existing contract. For advertising, 325,000 is what we're at with our general advertiser. And that was approved 2 months ago or last month? The three advertisers. Last month. So that's the 300. So that's the cap there. For professional services, 60,000. For every other, for goods and other services, 20,000.
Okay,
so if we were going to spend $60,000 on somebody, you're going to hear about it. If we were to spend $5,000 for 3 local bands, you wouldn't. I mean, you'll get a report from us, but it wouldn't be a vote to the full council.
So basically, this is going to be mostly administrative action. Okay. Questions?
From audit findings.
No vote to be taken.
Yeah, like I said, we're just looking for input to make sure that
Where do you feel
it's the budget.
Where's the dollar amount going to come in, you think?
Oh, what do you mean?
What's the expenditure going to be in total?
We don't,
Do you have an idea? It's not going to be the 250 that was originally presented.
well, no, we'll need the 100 for entertainment if we can, and the 100 for the advertising. The big, at this point, we had a meeting for advertising, we're about at 50,000, but that includes Texas Monthly, New Mexico Magazine, social media, you know, AAA magazine. So we've contacted those advertisers because their deadlines for their ad placement is already, you know,
Yeah.
February, March. So we have to contact them. But I think if I understand it right, and correct me if I'm wrong, we won't place the ads. I guess we work with TJ. We'll tell her this is what we need and she will place the ads and the billing will go through the city.
And we can do that up to 100,000 because.
Yeah, but the Texas Monthly is the most expensive one we had, and that includes a full page ad, a newsletter, and the April edition is just New Mexico. It's 15,000 was the most.
We already passed that in our last meeting, didn't we?
Yeah, so that 325, right, so that's already built in. So like it's, if you guys were just to collectively say, keep it under 200K, that'd be very easy. If you say keep it under 500K, we can absolutely do that. Any type of input is what we want. So that again, when it comes to budget season, there aren't any surprises.
If you said keep it at 100K on advertising, keep it at 20,000 on entertainment, and that way we don't get.
Well, 20,000 for entertainment isn't going to be enough because there's no seed money coming in. Main Street doesn't have any money to start with. So they're not looking at hiring a big band like they've done in the past. They're looking at hiring 4 or 5 or more little acts, like Obadiah Thomas has come, the fire seat, you know, the fire eater people, but they're all about $3,000 to $5,000 each. So
Get Colt Gibson to play. I think Mrs. Moore had a question for you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, does this mean that UFO will no longer go through the occupancy tax board for funding requests?
So the short answer is, it's complicated. We're not discussing any reimbursement scheme that the occupancy tax board normally contemplates here though, because this would be city expenditures.
So in the past, there's always been 3 signatory events for Roswell. UFO, Like Spike It, which is defunct, but Glory Days is there, and then the state fair. Is there going to be enough funds going forward if you make the exception for the UFO festival, say for the state fair, to be able to have the same kind of funding and for their entertainment to be paid for as well?
Doesn't sound like it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's not a problem. Like I said, 1.4 is anticipated. We're talking about no more than 250 here. And I mean, administratively, we have had some, now that I've looked into it a little more closely, there's some things at the occupancy tax board that are going to need improving. In particular, if you look at 33822 subpart D, the occupancy tax board, at least for the past 8-9 years, has not been doing its mandated job. They're supposed to provide the council with a recommendation for expenditures of all lodgers tax money. That's never happened to my knowledge, at least in the past decade. We're going to be correcting that. But again, we're up against the clock when it comes to the festival. And so normally I don't like doing it, but it's either something doesn't get funded that we all agree needs to be funded at some level. That's the hiccup there.
And that is the hiccup why I don't have a full expenditure for you, because a lot of the acts and everything, it's too late in the year to book a lot of this. So we're on a really tight schedule as to how much they're going to spend.
Well, I'm going to trust Mr. Cole and you to be good stewards of our money. Let's move on. It's not coming out of the general fund. It sounds like there's going to be plenty of money left in the lodger's tax to fund those additional events. And so I'm okay with it.
And follow procurement guidelines.
Yes, absolutely.
What is?
All procurement guidelines.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this one need a motion, right?
No motion. An informational item. We were kind of confused about this when I was putting this agenda together, so I just stuck it on there.
But just, we've already had 2 committee meetings and several subcommittees. Everyone's working really well together. The UFO Museum, have its list, I texted the printed one.
And this won't preclude somebody else from doing a fireworks show or some other organization.
No,
We don't support it.
we're trying to find a July 4th person still, but, you know, it's,
Well, I would like to point out, you can pass that to Corin. It's been brought to my attention the 250th anniversary of the United States birthday is in 2 years. I really think the city needs to start working on now on some kind of celebration for that. So that's something to keep in mind.
Okay.
For the 150th anniversary of Roswell was last year.
Well, that wasn't,
And what do we want to do?
I think that's right.
Okay, anything else to add to this discussion? Very good, moving on. Let's do a budget adjustment for fiscal year ending June 30th. Resolution 24XX for LG Abatement Opioid Fund. And
Thank you.
Tony, you're going to take this?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It was a participant too. For a group of people.
Oh, I've got,
Seen it.
she sent me an email or a text. I don't care. I think it's good.
It's got a lot of participation.
Yeah. I mean, it shows that they're out there working it.
Yeah.
We're out of that business. If somebody else is picking up the government, I think that's good.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council members. Agenda item number 6 is consider approval of resolution 24XX approving budget adjustment for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, and consider ratification of resolution 24XX for the LG Abatement Opioid Fund. The DFA requires approval of a budget adjustment when increasing a revenue or an expense. I have given you a new Exhibit A. I had to do an amendment to that on the bottom of the transfers for corrections. Well, working on the second quarterly DFA report, one of the funds was in the negative, and I had to do an adjustment for that. So we did a transfer of $251,833, put that back in the red, in the black, sorry. The adjustment is for revenues of the total amount is 1.874, 114.17 in revenues and expenses. The adjustment for the opioid is 1.3 million. That is for the ratification of the LG Abatement Opioid Fund. We received that back in January. So we had to get a ratification for that. And a new line item was placed in the DFA quarterly report for that line specifically. I stand for any questions.
Wait for is Counselor coming back? Or do you leave? Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I have a question on the opioid fund. Counselor, maybe you can help me with this one. I have a question on the 1.393 million.
yes,
The opioid fund. Is that restricted?
yes. There are significant restrictions on that. It's about an 8-page settlement agreement, and 4 pages of it talk about the restrictions. The short and long of it is it has to be spent on some form of opioid addiction treatment or prevention. So the city had a few years back and Mr. Matthews can comment more, had an arrangement with the county that they would house it, but we got a cut of this anyway. And so the city and the county, and this was before any of you were actually seated, but, oh, you were on the commission at the time. And so was Councilor Corn. We're supposed to do something in conjunction with the county. At least that's still the on paper plan. But
So my question then is there money still housed at the county that belongs to the city? Do we know that?
Yeah, when I spoke with Bill Williams about it yesterday, he thinks there is, and he was going to have his finance team check.
And this says distribution number 1. Do we know what the additional distributions are going to be?
And not off the top of my head now.
Depending on how much the AG wants.
How much what?
The Attorney General.
Oh, it's a scam the top?
Oh, they-
Right, yeah,
they
40% went to the law firm that they hired, and then another cut went for the administration of the law firm that they hired.
Yeah.
So this is less than half of what.
It was not a good deal.
Yeah.
No, it's not a good deal.
The Robles law firm earned every cent.
So we will be seeing something come in the future which will appropriate or
I'd anticipate it being smaller. So this was from the biggest guys, and then there were 3 additional groups that kind of got in. I think CVS was the largest, and that would be part of number 2, but it won't be anything like this first one because this got like Walmart, Walgreens. Who is a couple of the actual.
are there time restrictions on when this money has to be expended? No. Okay.
So this is just a bookkeeping deal to bring the money in.
Right.
Or we can figure out what we're going to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'd advise until we have a more cohesive plan is to put this in an interest-bearing account and use the interest for opioid-related treatments that the city already has to purchase, like Narcan.
Yeah.
And that would fall squarely within the, and that way we're not losing the principal, but at least, something good's coming out of it until we have a more comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say that I think we really need to be collaborating within the county also.
I think, if I may, Dara Dana, in some of the meetings with Counselor Arnold, I think they're actually looking, correct me if I'm wrong, hiring someone to administer.
Right, they're looking for an administrator, but in the meantime, we shouldn't let this sit without interest.
Absolutely.
And my question then is the money, how much does the county have of our money?
That I can't say.
They were supposed to have all of it, so that we even got a check was an issue. It was a mistake up in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
I think their cut was 60%, we get 40%, so they should have a little bit more than that too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the first check. We don't know how much of theirs.
I thought
money's sitting over there.
I don't think it's much.
I couldn't tell you. I think by the time that all came to fruition, I was termed out. So I don't quite know.
I'm just curious, is there $1 million sitting there?
No, it'd be a lot less.
$500,000?
At most.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you a better number.
I'm just looking, who's receiving the interest income off of that money?
They are right now.
Are we going to get it back?
No.
Then let's get our money.
Get it out with the county
now, Counselor.
Let's request our money.
Well, I think there already some negotiation going on.
Yeah, no, we're trying to.
What happened?
The idea was always together.
Commissioner Kevin, when he's on the county commission, knew this was coming down the pike. He termed out and then the money showed up.
Yeah. Well, all I'm saying is it's our money, put it in our hands, and let's get the income stream off of it.
Well, and that's.
And then we can collaborate.
That's the biggest part of it still is that we should be working together on the expenses of money, the county and the city. With a lot of other things we should be working together on, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Historically, the county has always taken care of health issues mostly.
I get it.
So historically, when the county commissions and all that stuff, it's all been.
Well, that's because that's what
I just like the idea of.
because they were supposed to do.
You ought to get your share of the interest.
Yep.
Leave it with their negotiator right there and right there. And they'll sit with their negotiators and the best team win. All right, what's your pleasure? It's a bookkeeping item, basically. Other issues are involved with it, but that's not what we're going to decide.
Oh, boy. Let's see what's next.
Mr. Chair,
Sir,
I move that we approve Resolution 24XX, approving a budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2024, and consider ratification of Resolution 24XX for the LG abatement opioid fund to be placed on the consent agenda.
Second.
a motion second. Any further discussion? Any negative votes?
Okay.
This is 4-0.
It's just for you. Use that for the.
Moving right along, that brings us to the water rate study and the wastewater and the solid waste. Let me see if I can get some clarification on this. These items are in the legal committee, correct, Mr. Chairman? Did we table those items in legal? So I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, what we really need to do is make a determination, I guess, of the rates so they can, and get this back to legal so they can roll the whole package out.
Yes, Mr. Chair, speaking for the legal committee, the chairman's here, of course, if the finance committee can bless the rates, we'll roll it into the whole ordinance for the next legal meeting.
And, but we got to go through the city council to get that done? Is that your?
Oh, no, it was, if finance committee approves the rates, then
And we can move it to legal.
and then legal will send it to council and.
What we're going to really do then, correct me if I misunderstood, is we're going to discuss the rates, and then it's going to be the recommendation of this committee. It's a legal committee.
Send it to legal for final approval. Correct.
Okay, everybody understand the rules? And then after it goes to legal, if it gets out of there, then we go to the city council. The first motion is the public hearing, and then we'll have to go have a public hearing before we actually do the final vote.
Correct.
So there's lots of steps left in this process. So any questions? Okay, let's get going. You're up. Let's go.
It's initiated by Mr. Glenn.
On that.
Well, we just discussed all of this.
Yes.
So do you want to rehash it for the
Committee, you want a presentation, or you ready to go based on the information you gleaned from the Monday special workshop?
I guess the question would be to move it forward was what option did you, we're going to move forward?
Option 2.
So that's what I put in here in a motion. Is that not right? That when we approved it, to move this forward, we need to have that included in motion, taking option 2. Which if you'll explain to everyone what option 2 is for those that were not in attendance.
Option 2 keeps the accounts in the names of the tenants. But it also will shorten the time for the
shut-off.
The shut-offs. We'll cut almost 30 days off that. And we will make sure that we get 3 months worth of the deposits based on the credit history of the person that's.
If we're going to shorten the cutoff date, we can shorten the deposit requirement correspondingly.
I wanted to keep it at 3 months.
Because we're not going to ever let them get more than 2 months.
Yeah. And at the end of.
So, okay, the reason why is it's the state statute says that we can reasonable deposits. And I fear a challenge to the reasonable deposit amount if we're charging more than what we would anticipate them being able to reasonably spend within the period before we shut them off.
But at this point in time, we can't reasonably anticipate anything because we don't know what their consumption is going to be.
True. Yeah, so I think maybe in 6 months, if we revisit it, that'd be totally fine.
Well, if I understand it correctly, under this proposal, as I understand it, we still got to see it legal, is that in January, the department heads are going to start a review and track if this is doing what we want it to do. And then in March, it'll come back to the city council for with a report, and the city council changes they deem.
It will happen sooner than that. The request was to go 6 months.
Right.
That's where we're at in December.
Right.
And then the ordinance requires that the utility director looks at it in January, determines what the budget needs to be for the next year, Presents that in April, along with the rates.
Yes, ma'am.
Option 2 also included you were going to inform the property owner or the landlord that there's arrears. Okay.
Okay.
But if you're gonna require a 2-month deposit, and then shorten it to 2 months. And if you're gonna leave it at, require a 3-month deposit, they're still gonna, you're still gonna be whole. The city would be whole, assuming the deposit's what it, is it deposit $50? Is the deposit what you project the rates?
The deposit will be an average of all of the consumers in that category. So it could be $100 a month, it could be $150 a month. We have not done that average yet.
So if you have a 2-month option, and if you're gonna shut it off, if you're delaying 2 months, then you will have used up all your deposit fees. So the city is basically still pretty whole if you cut them off in 2 months.
No, we don't know that.
It's a variable.
Well, it would be somewhat of a,
We'd be in better shape than we are now. But it's too early to tell.
Everything's up, I mean, it's a trial and.
That's the reason why if you recall, Mayor, that everybody presented on Monday said there's a lot of assumptions. And we don't know how those assumptions are going to play out yet. And that's the reason why we built into this thing, reviews. And also on that deposit, I'd give you $100 deposit, turn the water on. When do I expect to get that deposit back, if ever?
12 months.
So then 12 months, if I paid my bill like I'm supposed to, then that will be deposited in the 13th and 14th month.
It'll be credited to the account, yes.
Okay. So you'll get a bill saying, I think, that you'll have, instead of, it'll show that you've got a credit coming. And then the next month, you'll get another credit or maybe a little payment, depending on how all this works out. Be high or low, we don't know yet. We're learning, and it takes a while to get all these pieces together. And that's part of the reason, if you look at the backside of the bill, it breaks it out in percentages so you know exactly what you're paying. And that's been a very missing item in this community as long as I've been here. We just get a 3-item deal and here's your bill. Well, where's the money going? This way we're building in some accountability and say total accountability, but some basis for where we come up with these figures. And that's started by that guy sitting right there. And it's been refined many times since then. So what's your pleasure? More discussion? I mean, I don't want to do this. I doubt anybody sitting at the table wants to do this. But in recent history, they pulled down the enterprise funds, over $16 million. The cost of buying material for replacement of pipes and valves has gone through the roof. And so everybody's going to look at that and think we're robbing them, but we're just really playing catch up. And then we have the water valve issue where we still owe, at the close of the books last year, $18 million on those water valves. Now, there have been some payments made, so it won't be quite that much when we close the books this year. But the fact of the matter is, that company has gone bankrupt. We're replacing some product that we bought periodically, the little valve that's supposed to open and close. remotely. We're having to replace those. Sometimes they hang open and sometimes they don't. It's crazy when they work or don't work. So there's a lot of stuff that you can talk about whenever you're accosted on the street, but you need to get all your facts together. And I've been looking at this now for 2 years, and I can't come up with a better idea. Just got to bite the bullet. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I want this motion to be that we, as Finance Committee, approve of the 2023 water utility rate study and move it to legal.
Is what? And
move it to
option 2.
And move it to legal, option 2.
Yeah.
You have a question?
Yeah, I would just to reiterate, I've looked at this for months along with everybody else that's looked at this whole issue. And this issue is not just an issue with Roswell, New Mexico. It's a nationwide issue of not investing into your infrastructure. And this community has kicked that can down the road for who knows how long.
150 years.
Yeah, it's never addressed this issue. The issue will become critical when you turn your faucet on and there's no water. Then will become Las Vegas, New Mexico, whomever, when they have water problems. Then it becomes an emergency. So this is a proactive movement trying to get there. And you're correct, people, I don't want to do this, but I have not heard an alternative to get these enterprise funds where they need to be. No one has come to me and said, hey, I got an idea. But I've heard a lot of bitching. And those that are doing the complaining don't have the facts at all. They just want to complain. Armchair quarterback, Monday morning, whatever you want to call them. So I know it's going to be very important. You've talked about this, Robert, and how we communicate this to the community, to what's really happening here. And that is going to be a real key as we get this message delivered across, because this is financially painful for people. And, I can't apologize for the council 20 years ago. I can't apologize for the council 10 years ago when it should have been looked at. So, but I'm not going to apologize for trying to make it right. And I think that's where we're at. So the real key is going to be how you, Mr. Cole, direct city staff to get this message out to everybody in this community so they understand what's going on. And we don't find ourselves with Robert saying, oh my God, we just lost 30 feet of major supply line. How are you going to pay for it? And that's a possibility, is it not, Robert?
Every day.
Every day it's a possibility. So it's not a scare tactic, it's the truth. So.
Well, a couple little statistics that you might think about using is they've got 350 feet of pipe underground.
350 miles.
Right, now, and 42 are critical.
Right.
Now, old asbestos pipe, correct?
Concrete cylinder and asbestos pipe.
And that doesn't need to be patched. That needs to be replaced at $1 million for 3/4 of a mile. I don't know what that equates to, but it's big bucks.
$50 million.
Is that sand side? A lot of it's concrete cylinder and AC. We have about 42 miles of concrete cylinder pipe, transmission line. And we have right now, about 60 miles of asbestos cement pipe in the system.
Oh, shit, 100 miles.
Tasty.
Yeah, but that asbestos pipe, as long as you don't have to cut it, it's safe. I mean, it doesn't corrode, it lasts.
Forever till it doesn't.
I mean, I've done with some of that at home. It's, you got to be careful cutting it. Probably wear masks and stuff, but the pipe itself stays pretty good. It's where you have a leaded fitting into it.
Yeah.
That the leaded fittings rot out. you know, and so, but the stuff is, it's good pipe, it is getting old though.
Mr. Chair, if I could add, Mr. Sanchez, what is the approximate cost to replace a mile of pipe?
Right now, like Counselor Chair Torrance said, we're looking at a project on North Montana right now. And the estimate, and it's 36-inch concrete cylinder pipe. And right now, they're working on the estimate, but Louis Nahar's last estimate was $1 million for 3/4 of a mile.
For 3/4, okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, 0.33.
So it's $1.25 million, about $8.3 per mile.
Per mile.
Yeah, so it's higher than I said.
So this is time to get your education because you're gonna need it.
But with that last leak on Montana, didn't it cost us $3.5 million out of the general fund? Which were 7.7 and the other one so that makes us almost $11 million short in our enterprise funds. Is exactly why we have to raise all this stuff. I mean, it's simple. You can't, people are gonna complain. We've had years of mismanagement.
And it's not.
I mean, 10 years.
Decades.
20. You could go back 30 years and it wasn't managed.
Well, after they closed the base, part of that, they didn't have a choice really, because they were flat ass broke.
Yep.
But after that, we never recovered. Nope. To start moving forward. And hopefully we're moving forward.
Well, Mr. Glenn mentioned in the workshop that they've never put in a budget to replace the infrastructure ever. So.
If I put something in to give him long pants.
Mr. Chair, that's the whole point of a rate study is to determine what your cost is versus what you're bringing in. And you think about it like your business bank account, you don't intermingle the two with your personal. And those accounts are not flush. Have been for a long time.
Well, they got spent. They got moved to the general fund, then you lose track of where the money went.
Well, Chairman, I think we're ready to go forward with this. I think it's all in everybody's best interest. I mean, I think we've all looked at this. I think Mr. Blaine's done an excellent job. I mean, he's pointed out all of our problems. He knows the direction we need to go in. I know I've heard so much unfavorable comment on this, but I call it political suicide. I don't care. It's time to go forward with it, and it's time for us to fix the city. And this is a chance to get it right now. I think so. Really do.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me ask you real quick, would it be all right on my motion to add all three of these studies and or you want to hit each one of them one at a time?
Let's do one at a time, just so the record is perfectly clear.
And we can identify the percentage on the first two anyway, so.
Well, my motion stands.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Any objection to sending this recommendation to the legal committee?
With option 2.
With option two. Hearing none, pass 4-0. Water waste utility. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the same motion that we approve it here in finance and move it to legal for the 2024 wastewater utility rate study with option 2 is the way to go with this and move it to legal.
I second it.
A motion, a second. Any further discussion? Any negative votes? Hearing none, passes 4-0. Now to the solid waste department rate study.
No, that was yesterday. It's a biggie.
I motion to move that as well and consider recommending it for approval of the 2023 solid waste department study with the option 2 as well to the legal committee.
I've got a motion.
Second.
Got a second. Any further discussion on that item? Hearing none. Any objection? Hearing none, passes 4-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
political comment,
Yes,
not
sir.
political, information. I would encourage everyone to show up at the legal committee meeting. That's the time to discuss it. and get it done at that point in time. So I would encourage everyone in attendance here and not in attendance, but maybe listening, show up at the legal committee, because try to get these things done at committee level to the best of our ability. And I would encourage everyone to come with your comments at that point in time.
Do you have a date and time for that?
Look at the calendar here. When's legal committee?
Legal committee is.
About 2 weeks. 3.
Yep.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock, same right here.
Yep.
We'll have them standing in the hall.
Yep. I hope.
You might want to about the location.
Mayor will bring donuts.
Yeah.
All right, that's for the chairman. The mayor talked about, but anyway. Yeah.
We still have time to change that location.
Yeah. We're
So,
certainly well advised to consider it. And we can go hang out in the library when they don't have any floors, so if there's any blood.
over at the museum, we can go hang out at the museum. Yeah.
Maybe take her.
Clean up.
Do it during the abatement, see how many people show up.
Please give us some water to that lady.
I was somewhat surprised we had in our workshop on Friday or Monday. But, we had what, half a dozen?
Yeah, well, better participation, but
That would have been a good place for them to be too.
yes, it would.
Okay, did I get a vote on this?
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
You did.
so we're on to the finance committee meetings, and you need to look at the amended. There was a little typo in there. Amy, you want to explain your typo?
No.
Never-
Really didn't want to.
I looked at it 2 or 3 times, and so I'm guilty.
I know.
Ed caught it.
Hey, what's your pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of the Finance Committee on January 8th, 2024.
As amended.
Second.
Any comments, questions, additions, or deletions? Hearing none. Any opposition? Hearing none, passes 4-0. And now we're down to the budget reports.
Just send me a copy of what we
Thank you.
Something skied out.
Any comments? Okay,
What page is that?
149.
I'm looking it up. Who go first or?
Tammy goes first.
Okay.
So for gross receipts in January, we received 5.9 million. And this was a one-time thing. We had some stores that went back and amended returns for the past 30 months. We have no idea what the amended returns were or what the value of those were. If we look at January of the prior year, it was 3.6 million. So with that, we kind of estimated that the amendments were the 2.258.
So let me ask you a question. So with these returns, then going forward, we should get a little more each month?
We don't know.
We don't know yet.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the tax and revenue does not tell you.
No.
They just send you a check and that's it. There's no accounting with those guys.
Nope. So
we don't know, Mr. Chair. I've talked to Ms. Smith about this because I was curious to what, and they just had to estimate a number of what that was. So, because I'm trying to figure out, well, how much is our revenue going forward to be? You don't know. So
time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask a question. Since we enacted and started collecting taxes for an ambulance service, how are we going to account those additional funds going forward? 5/16, was it?
Yes.
I can, yes, we can account for that by looking at the total monthly charity distribution and dividing it by however many 16s that we're doing.
Are we set up, is our financial team set up to keep that as a separate fund line item? Okay, because it's got a catch-all. Can't do anything till you get $5 million. So we need to know when that happens, and hopefully we won't have to change our mind. Have to start that process early for whatever reason. Okay. All right, so.
What was that, if I may? If they do find out when it's 5 million, you have the ambulance service, correct? Could they not start, like, if they see a really good deal on an ambulance, they could buy it?
Sure, Counselor, we've already put in orders for 3 or 4 ambulances. 2 years. Yeah, it's a 2-year waiting list, but
Lead times, 2 years.
But yeah, if something becomes available, the plan is to snatch it.
And so, to your point, we've had a couple of used ambulances be donated to us from Carlsbad.
Yeah.
One of those went afoul recently, but they're donating another used ambulance to us at this point.
I just don't want to.
We're not just sitting on our hands. We're moving as fast as we can.
I was just worried if a good deal comes up and they don't jump on it, you know.
Two things, if a good deal comes up and we got the cash to do it.
That's what that's what I was asking.
Yeah, we can come run it to you, but just so you know, it's about a 2-year lead time on it, and we placed the order.
Okay.
That's another thing is your delay from the time you order to when you can actually expect to receive it.
Okay. And
we done with grocery receipts? Anybody else want to?
Sell it from under you.
Cannabis.
For cannabis, we received 28,000. It's up 11,000 from what we budgeted, and overall 75%. There was nothing budgeted in July, so that kind of throws that percentage off. There you can see budgeted versus actual. It kind of peaked right there, and then it's coming back down.
So the people were stocking up for the Christmas season, as you can see. Gotta get through with
It was really Thanksgiving because we're 60 days behind, so they stuffed the turkey.
My hat. Okay. Lodger's tax.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. So lodger's tax update November activity 2023 collected in December. All hotels reported with 5 of those being added to January 2024 collections due to mail delays during the holidays. The STAR data shows that we are about 55.5% occupancy. Average daily rate percent change this month is up about 15% from last year. The 5% lodger's tax November activity based on December occupancy that we have is 46.1, and that is $94,157 collected. The same thing, there was 5 hotels that were added to January 2024 collections. The lodger's tax report for the convention center bed fee occupancy was again about 46.1, and we collected $50,482. And Dan for any questions.
Now, it's my understanding that the addition at the convention center is paid out of lodger's tax or bed fee?
Mr. Chair, convention center is paid out of both. So there's a debt obligation that completes in 2027. That is paid out of occupancy or out of the bed fee. Then lodger's tax, then all the rest of the occupancy, the bed fee pays the convention center, and there was still a deficit. So lodger's tax plugged that in the budget by about $200,000. Bed fee is tied to overall operating expense and debt of the convention center beginning in 2027. So our bed fee is going to start decreasing significantly and 2% more per year based on that moving forward.
Okay.
So, yeah, so 3 budgets from now, they expect to be plugging a bigger hole at the convention center with some other tax.
Okay. Anything else that you care to share on your Public Affairs Department report, or does it stand as presented? Okay. All right, so we got that done. Now we're down to public participation. See who's online, see if they have any questions or comments or. I don't see anybody chiming in. Don't see any messages. Okay, thank you.
Feel better, Jeremy.
Oh, I thought I was going to get by.
You almost made it, but.
I was not looking over there. Go ahead, Miss Rita.
Rita Kane Dorhofer, very narrow unstriped Chicago Cubs mailbox, Mark Road in the county. I went to the City of Roswell website, which I very rarely do. For obvious reasons. I took this out and the recycling out. I love recycling. I recycle what I can. But it says here, the City of Roswell, New Mexico government. Now, the City of Roswell has resumed offering recycling opportunities for citizens. Is that citizens of Roswell, residents of Roswell, or county? Number 2, will there be a charge when I go out there, because I am not a city resident and I do not have a water bill? I don't mind standing in line or driving in line waiting for a landfill staff to evaluate my recyclables. I can take that. So I have to stand in line, I have to drive in line with my cans that are cleaned out, washed out, and the labels taken off, my bottles rinsed and washed out, and my cardboard. It doesn't say anything about if I have to take my name off of my cardboard from my chewy boxes. So how do we do that? At the solid waste department, I go in there, I'm in line, I do not have a water bill. Somebody has to evaluate is there going to be a special staff member to evaluate my recyclables? I mean, if I say I'm going to wash them out, Chairperson, I will wash them out.
I don't know exactly how this came about because we haven't had any discussion in this committee or legal or any place that I'm aware of that they, out of the goodness of their heart, they started this. I don't know if that particular question, what to do with you county folks, was discussed. I don't know. Here's the guy.
I know the mayor has been pushing for the recycling, and then I've been talking to him too, and he,
Has anybody discussed anything about our county residents?
I don't know how it's handled, that part.
Sure, if you may, the collectible, the site has become a collection site. It's going to be for everyone, for citizens in general. That a citizen doesn't change because you live in the county.
And I think he's talking about not washing your cans or bottles, but just making sure there's not like paper.
Well, it says here.
Plastic and stuff.
And
Councilor Halverson,
Chair
all
also.
plastics must arrive at the landfill rinsed and cleaned out. It says so in here.
No, I'm not saying, but I think more of the evaluations are more to make sure you're not mixing your recyclables.
And it says also in here that you have to separate your recyclables from your trash. So do I contact a person at the landfill or do I just wait for my turn in line and then they look at my recyclables?
Man, answer the question.
Committee Chair, there is going to be no fee for the collection at all. The arrangement that we have with Green Tree Solid Waste Authority of Reynosa, The plastic, number one, number two has to be rinsed and ready for them to go. That's the agreement for them to receive it and process it quicker. That's so they can take it in. We're gonna be diligent about it. We're gonna monitor our contamination rate. We already have staff available, according, even the landfill supervisor as well. We'll sit there, evaluate when you come in, we'll evaluate what you got, we'll tell you what you can and cannot throw, and we'll process it from there. We want to make sure our waste stream that's going to Ruidoso is clean. That's the arrangement we have with solid waste authority.
So is the person that's going to look at my recyclables, is he going to be there at the scale house or do they have to call him?
Committee chair, the only way to look at the recyclables is to actually be there. So we're going to be there, we're going to evaluate it, we're going to look it over, we're going to educate the public as well, what they can and cannot bring. And as this develops and going forward, we'll be able to educate the general. In general, we're looking at people that actually bring it out to us are really committed to the program. So we're going to be getting some pretty good recyclables. Hopefully in the future, with the city manager blessing, we'll be able to expand the program.
Thank you. So when can I start bringing out I've got cans and cans and cans. When can I start bringing it out? Tomorrow?
Committee chair, councilors, we actually have people bringing it out for the last 2 weeks already.
All right.
We set up, we're already up.
Thank you. I will be there in the morning.
Let me know how those.
What?
Let me know how.
The truckload.
That'd be great.
It is good, yeah.
We're ready.
Has that been pretty clean?
Yes,
Oh, please.
it's ready and our partnerships are ready and we're ready to rock and roll.
My daughter used to live in Germany and it's mandatory to recycle there.
So the
And she
gentleman,
said the laws there are unbelievable. You get fined if you don't rinse it out right. If you accidentally mix plastic 1 with plastic 2 or something to that effect. I mean,
yeah, 1 and 2.
and she thought, we got it made here. And I mean, it's probably coming to every city near us soon.
But committee chair, committee members, the gentleman that spoke at city council regarding recycling, he was born and raised in Germany until he was 39.
Right.
So I was able to meet with him for I was able to talk to him on the phone for about 2 hours. Went through a lot of different ideas. He does have family still back there. He's going to be bringing us some information that they're doing now. Germany is one of the leading countries in the world for recycling.
Wow, good role model.
And I'll say this, Abraham and his team have done a really great job putting this all together in just a couple of months. Because I've been asking him about it since I walked in. How can we make this work? What we had before was what's now our maintenance facility out there, that entire building. They drop out all the recycling and have to sort through that. Very labor intensive, and we were losing a lot of money.
It's ridiculous when you have to do that. Yeah.
So I'm extremely proud of the way he's put this together and reached out to various folks that are doing some recycling, including Target and partnering.
I heard a level here, but I don't know if it's.
I know they talked with David.
How do you know if it's 1 or 2?
Green Tree.
There's a triangle on it.
It's takes the stuff up is for alcohol.
It's on the bottom.
They had that man. I looked on the bottom. He's got some cans in there, no plastic. I said, can't take it back. Can't.
Mark on this one either.
So the intent was to show up, when they show up at the landfill, we'll help guide them. We'll have cans for garbage as well. We'll show you what can and cannot be done. Actually, you can write this. So this bottle, for example, only the cap is recycled. There's a 2 in there.
Let's see.
What's inside the cap?
It's inside the cap.
You can't take the cap?
You can take the cap, but not this.
You can't take this?
No.
Really?
Oh, we're gonna have the cap recycled.
Gonna be a-
People match.
Cap's got a number underneath the cap.
It's going to be an educational process for
It'll
everyone.
take a little time, but that's why it's nice to do it in a small enough, and then we can scale out.
You know, there's a group in town collecting caps. It's for our benefit.
My wife does it.
We can set aside a container for caps.
If we were to transfer caps to them, because they're making the benches and, I don't know.
We can collect them on the side.
I collect all
They
the
can,
tabs.
they'll more than welcome to come pick it up, or we'll drop it off.
Aluminum can tabs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a direct benefit for us.
Yeah.
Comment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we got a comment. Thank you, Solid Waste, for all your hard work. There
That's
you go.
very nice.
Here, I'll give you a cap.
Good job, folks. It's not only me.
It's an anonymous post. He probably did.
Yeah, he might have did it on his phone.
Let me see here.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that
Anything for the good of the order? Well,
No, good job, Abraham, seriously.
we're adjourned.
We got a great team.
All of you guys on our studies,